Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Camille Dupuis, and I'll be moderating the webinar. Today's topic is breaking into IT, and we're going to talk about from your first job to advanced certifications with CompTIA. So, InfoSec Institute webinars are a great way to earn CPE credits. And you can go ahead and check with your certifying body if you're eligible. Each one differs a little bit, so go ahead and check with your specific certifying body to see what qualifies as an eligible webinar for you. You can learn more at these links here. We also have an article that kind of talks about CPE requirements, and then we also have a link there you see where it will tell you how to request your certificate of completion for viewing the webinar. And you'll also be receiving these links in the follow-up email after the session today. I'd like to go over a few things real quick before we meet our speakers. First, I wanted to mention that everyone as an attendee is in listen-only mode. So you are muted at this time, but you're welcome to ask us questions by typing them in the control panel, and feel free to ask them at any time, and we'll save some time at the end with our experts to kind of chat about those questions and see if we can't get some answers for you. So let's go ahead and move on, and we will meet our speakers. So today we are fortunate to have with us Teresa Sears. Teresa is the Senior Director of Product Management for CompTIA Skills Certifications. She leads a team of dedicated product managers and is responsible for the creation and continued growth of a product portfolio. That includes CompTIA's flagship IT certifications, CompTIA A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus. She has also managed certifications that validate skills in cloud, Linux, and data center management. Previous to working at CompTIA, Teresa developed help systems and technical training in telecommunications, commercial real estate, and the healthcare industry. We'll also be hearing from Christine Tuttleman, and Christine is a Business Information Security Officer, CompTIA SME member, and a member of the CompTIA Technical Advisory Committee. So Christine will share with us how being involved with CompTIA has kind of helped her progress her career. And Christine currently resides in Kansas City. So two great people to have joining us today. I want to thank them both for taking some time out of their schedules to chat with us today. I'll go ahead and pass it on to Teresa to get us started.
Great, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here with all of you, and thank you for joining us. So the way this will kind of work is I'll talk a little bit about some of what CompTIA sees as ways to think about IT careers and to enter into it, enter into the field, and then we'll take a few minutes at the end to talk with Christine about what this actually looks like on the ground, how she started her career and got to the point where she is now. So we'll have a little bit of a presentation and then wrap it up in more of a more informal chat, if you will, with Christine. So to get us started, one comment that we often hear at CompTIA is from folks who tell us something or who ask us something along the lines of, I want to get into IT, but I'm not sure where to start. Maybe I should look at a networking class or take part in a hackathon. What are these coding classes and boot camps that I keep hearing about? Is that the place to start? Should I just sign up and take a CompTIA certification? Do I have the right background for that? Oh, help, where should I start? What kind of resources do you have available for helping me tackle this question about how do I get into an IT career, and how do I start? How do I separate the signals from the noise? One revealing, I think, aspect about these questions is that there are so many different types of roles that fall under the umbrella of IT. You know, you've got DBA database administrators, software developers, network engineers, storage administrators, IT support, data scientists. The titles and roles kind of go on and on, literally for pages, when you look at it on a printed list. So I think it can be especially challenging, if not impossible, to narrow down what your own scope of interest is without knowing and having some way of thinking about the different options. Now, sure, you can research and read and Google until you're blue in the face, hundreds of different types of job roles. But I think sometimes, at least speaking from personal experience, when it comes to Googling, you just end up with this pile of information and even more questions about whether or not you have the complete picture, how these things from disparate sources can fit together. And that's where this concept of an IT framework can really come in handy. This framework is something that CompTIA's research group conceptualized, and they did it in order to help us, us being, our members as well as CompTIA internally, the staff, to really help us get our arms around what is IT? What do we mean when we say that? What are the core functions provided by an IT group? And for the purposes of today, I thought let's use this framework to talk about what and where the jobs are. So let's take a look at these 4 pillars or functions of IT. And you see here on the slide, infrastructure, development, security, and data. So infrastructure really refers to the systems that provide the foundation for business operations. It's really the technology equivalent of an organization's plumbing, heating and cooling, electricity, that sort of thing. So things like networking, core application support, systems administration, those are all functions that fall within this idea of infrastructure. The next big pillar is development. Development is really, it's the creation of software that enables workflow and drives automation. So what does that mean? It's not just something that happens at your Microsofts and your Googles. This function exists across most, if not all, organizations, large and small, and in a number of different industries. Website development, for example, would fall within this pillar, and the support of that website. You can, if you think about even some of the smallest organizations that are out there would have that, and they need this development function to manage that. Security is the third pillar that we are going to look at, and this is really the technology. But in addition to the technologies, the processes and the people and the education that they needed for safe operations. And security roles, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about this when I chat with Christine in a little while here, but security roles often touch on all 3 of those, those 3 legs of the security stool of technology, processes, and people. Now, different roles might emphasize one of those 3 more than the other, depending on the role. For example, someone in a compliance-focused role is thinking a lot about process, but they're also thinking about technology and people. But the emphasis might be on one of those 3 pieces of security. And then the final pillar in our IT framework is data. And this refers to the management and analysis of information to provide insights. And within the data function, you could, something like a database administrator might sit kind of on the overlap almost between data and infrastructure, but that's a role that is in that bucket. Storage administration is another one. Folks really focused on how to collect, store, and access data. But it also includes data analysts, data scientists, those analysts kind of data crunching roles, which have a long history, but I think in recent years, with the explosion of data available to crunch, Those have been getting a lot more attention in the media. We're seeing a lot more programs focused around those types of roles. Security, together with security, I think those data analytics roles are some that you've likely read about as being real challenges for employers to fill. Both of those areas, I think, have well-documented demand for them that, frankly, exceed the available supply. Looking within some of these roles, and I mentioned a little bit of this, within data, you have database administrators and analysts. You've got folks specializing in visualization. Those are some of the roles you'll hear about that fall within this pillar. In the security area, I mentioned a compliance person, someone focused on process management. Are some of the roles you'll see in there. Penetration testers, security analysts fall within that pillar. Within development, you've got web development, application development, business systems types of people fall within these development roles. And then within infrastructure, system admins, network admins, help desk, IT support. And I think within this framework, and the framework does offer a convenient way to think about IT functions and the job roles that are part of those functions. It gives us some idea of the what, but it doesn't, other than me saying there's a lot of demand for that, it doesn't really, the framework itself doesn't really address the need. And that's really, the demand, the need for the job role, that is what's related to the opportunity. So, for example, are there some areas within the 4 functions where there might be more opportunity with more opportunity than others? Are any of them better future-proofed against things like rising automation? Where does the most opportunity exist if I'm interested in entering into an IT career? So let's take a quick step back and then talk about the opportunity within the IT field. And you've got a few quick factoids here about IT in the United States. There's a huge number of people employed in technology, 11.5 million. And that number includes people directly in technology roles, but it also counts those in non-technology roles working for tech companies. So if I'm in marketing at Google, it is counted in that number. But we're really gonna, I think, zero in on those technology roles for the most part when we're talking today. A couple of other factoids: 2.8 million postings, technical occupation job postings last year. So lots of people hiring into these roles, and it's increasing about 2% a year over the last year. If we look at this and layer over our idea of the framework, let's look first at development. So when we're looking at development, let's talk a little bit about software and web developers. Software and web developers account for 1.3 million jobs in 2017 with an expected growth rate of 3%. This is by far the largest single group within that 11.5 million number. Software, there's that famous quote from Mark Andreessen about software eating the world. It really is a driving force in both the tech sector and within the broader economy. And we don't, CompTIA in our research group doesn't really see that trend changing anytime soon. And because of that, this demand for the software development skill set is it's going to continue to grow and will continue to be one that is in significant demand. Now, beyond software, the next two largest areas for jobs fall within the infrastructure and cybersecurity areas. You can think about core infrastructure jobs like network architects and administrators and IT support. Those represent 742,000 jobs, and with growth close to 2% expected. So another big piece of, or another, I guess, large opportunity offered by jobs within that pillar. And then another pillar, of course, is security. And we hear a lot about the need for security skills. And that is, that grouping represents the third biggest area of opportunity within that 11.5 million folks employed in technology. Just looking at security analysts as an example, there's 690,000 jobs for security analysts, and that's also expected to grow at a rate of 3%, and I think that's over the next 5 years. If you are curious about what some of the opportunities are by job role, and actually for, that might be specific to your state, CompTIA does publish a cyber states report. It's referenced at the bottom of your screen here, www.cyberstates.org. It is free for anyone to access and check out what things look like in their state. So if you are concerned about that, or maybe if you're working somewhere where that some of that information might be useful, please, I invite you to take advantage of it. So I think there are definitely some jobs out there. Are they worth having? And is there any future in them? Addressing the question about, are these all going to be all going to be automated sometime in the very near future. So let's talk about a few things that might make them worth pursuing. I think one key thing might be good pay. You look here on this graphic, and there's a pretty decent premium paid within the tech industry. And again, when we're talking about the tech industry, we're talking both about tech jobs across industries, as well as non-technical jobs within a technical company. Now, I mean, would someone entry level be walking to a job and make $113,000? No. And there's really no standard payment for every single tech job. It's going to depend on the demand. It's going to, for that particular skill set, it's going to depend on the level of experience. Entry level folks are not going to make Mark Zuckerberg money. Most of us don't make Mark Zuckerberg money. We would love to make Mark Zuckerberg money, but I think no matter how well funded a startup might be, an entry-level job role is going to make a nice, healthy salary, but it's going to be, I think, depending on the role, somewhere between where this blue line starts and where this yellow line ends. And that's because there is such, within organizations, there is such an incredible need for technology. And because of that, corporations, governments, they're willing to pay for the talent if the talent is out there. And I think that kind of pulls the scarcer resources, the more money it can command, and we see that with job skills, frankly. So good pay is one reason to, if you're still on the fence about an IT career. I think another one that I would put out there is IT careers aren't tied too strongly to geography. Now you could argue, well, what about all those people in Silicon Valley, on the big metro areas on the East Coast. But part of the beauty, I think, of a technology career is we're really spoiled when it comes to identifying the type of business you might want to work in, because every industry consumes IT services. It's true of healthcare, it's true of automotive, travel, education, you name it. We are consuming IT services across every industry. And so I think that makes it much less tied to geography than many other careers. I mean, every industry needs tech workers. So there are going to be IT careers of different sorts, which opens up, I think, the possibility for career mobility, as well as lateral moves across those 4 functions. And the field keeps changing. That's probably another thing I think that makes an IT career pretty appealing, because it keeps changing. New opportunities arise. New technology creates new job roles and transforms existing ones. So some emerging job roles, I swear it seems like sometimes they've taken words and combined them in new ways to make new job titles. I like machine learning trainer. That's one of my favorite new ones. Turns out machines need to be taught too. Maybe not quite like the way people do, but they do need that input. And there are some others on this list of emerging job roles that you probably recognize already. Full stack developers have been around for a few years now, but some other ones on here are coming up in terms of being referenced on job ads a little more frequently. So I think if you look at those 3 things that can make an IT career pretty appealing: the good pay, the lack of being tied to a specific geography, and then just the fact that the field keeps changing, which can be both a positive and negative. But I think in the sense that there's always a new avenue for growth, I think, and for learning and taking on new responsibilities makes it appealing. Some of if we think about these trends too, and overlay the idea of, again, back to our framework with our 4 pillars, you look at something like cloud and how that changes jobs. I think sometimes the knee-jerk reaction is to think, oh, there's a new technology, it's going to create a new job role. That's not what we see playing out typically when we look at job roles and how they're created. Looking at something like cloud, 6-7 years ago, cloud wasn't really a factor in most of our certifications, as an example. Now you see it in A+, you see it in Network+, you see it in Security+. We now have a Cloud+. And the reason for that isn't because we got on the hype train. It's because as these technologies like cloud were adopted by organizations, it transformed the job role. So just looking at something like, if I'm in an infrastructure career, this would be someone who is a network admin, who is a systems admin, an architect, something like that. Having cloud brought in as a technology or wanting to use cloud might make someone in that role think about or take on responsibility for workload balancing. Most organizations are using some kind of hybrid environment where some of their workloads are on cloud systems, be they public or private. Some are on-prem. How are we balancing that? What skills, as someone who's responsible for making sure that we've got the compute power necessary to run our business, what do I need to know about cloud and how to balance the workloads across our different systems. Similar thing in the other pillars. If I'm in security, if I've got things on in the cloud, how are the applications and data secured? What does it give us if we're in development? Can we do things faster? Can we get test and production environments up faster than we could without the cloud? In data, does having these resources help with consolidation and analysis? So it's really not, in many cases, the creation of new job roles. Those come along much more slowly, but it's in the transformation of some existing job roles. Same thing, I think, can be said for the Internet of Things, just as another example similar to cloud. In the infrastructure sphere of influence, you've now got one of our subject matter experts called them dongles. You know, kind of these things now hanging off your network that you have to be concerned about. How am I going to support those? How am I going to secure them? From the development side, it's how can I make sure that they can communicate with one another? Within the data pillar, a similar thing of how does the data from these devices flow into existing data sets? Do we have enough storage? And can we make sense of all this data with the tools and the skill sets that we have in place now? So these are some of the ways that new technology is transforming existing technical roles. And I talked about some of the new roles that were emerging. There is still yet, believe it or not, a third category, and that is how existing non-IT roles that haven't traditionally required technical skills now do. 82% of these so-called middle-skilled jobs now require technical or digital skills. And I think, not to belabor the point more than I already have, but the bottom line point is really the bottom line on this slide. It's technical skills are the gateway to career advancement. So what are some of the ways you can get on this pathway to an IT career that has these options and opportunities for advancement? This is one way, I think, of looking at an important, I think, and kind of well-known entry point into an IT career, and that's really looking at a tech support role. So tech support is it can be a launching pad to a variety of IT specializations. And full disclosure here, in addition to leading CompTIA's product management team, I am also the A+ product manager and have had that role for the last 5 years. So this one is an entry point that's kind of near and dear to my heart. But I do feel strongly that technical support opens up pathways to other roles based on what team is being supported. And this graphic here, if you think about this foundation level being a tech support role, and you get into that role by acquiring the skills that are consistent with the A+ certification, and getting them validated with A+. But then you could be in a role supporting any number of different teams. Maybe you're supporting a security operations center. And that opens up this pathway to these other unique roles. You know, I think it bears mentioning that tech support is often the first line of defense. Tech support people are often triaging different things that come across their screens, so to speak. And think about it even from a user perspective. You don't, if you have something that you think might be a phishing email, you typically don't go to your senior level security analyst with it. You go to your help desk, you go to your tech support people and ask, should I be worried about this? And it's that tech support person who needs to be able to evaluate that and figure out what to do with it. So there is the opportunity there to go along that path. A similar thing with network operations. You're supporting a network admin team or a system admin, and that opens up pathways to advancement in those areas, to further specialization in those areas. And then even in application support, maybe you are supporting some kind of ERP, an enterprise resource planning system like a SAP or something like that. And that could open up some pathways that you might not necessarily think of as pathways from A+. Things like a systems analyst or an operations specialist could be, a pathway to that type of role could be charted from a technical support role. And you see this, I think, playing out within the industry, frankly, and as a reflection of that, within the CompTIA certification portfolio, looking at something like A+, we do cover, of course, we still cover hardware and have for a long time, but the focus there is on infrastructure support, and that includes endpoint management. And you can't support the endpoints without understanding them. So endpoint management, device connectivity, basic networking. That tech support role too, if you're looking in a machine and you find something with a .py, you have to know a little something about scripting, because you don't know, is that something I need to worry about as something that might do damage to this machine and to the systems I'm supporting, or maybe it's just a login script of some sort. So a little bit of understanding around scripting is something that it surprises most people that it's included in A+. Looking at data storage, looking at log files, frankly, is another skill needed in tech support, and that's really a gateway to understanding data analytics. Security, of course, is a key part of that role, and as is understanding software, supporting software, number of different, you might have to support phones, tablets, Macs, PCs. So a grounding and the ability to understand and find troubleshoot, I guess, issues in any number of different systems is an important skill in that tech support role. So looking at it from the perspective of CompTIA certifications as well, we really have, our certifications are set up to help guide career advancement through these different pathways, whatever they might be. From establishing core IT skills with A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus, to specialized pathways in infrastructure, whether you're wanting to focus a little bit more on systems administration with a combination of Linux and server, and then advancing up through Cloud Plus. These are ways that you can further your career once you, of course, once you have added on some experience and real world expertise. cybersecurity is similar in that there's a pathway of progression here from this core set of skills. That's really these two areas in particular, going back to our, our 4 pillars. CompTIA certifications are really focused on that infrastructure pathway and that cybersecurity pathway. There are overlapping areas, I think, in data and development, but we're really looking at that support role as the entry-level role, and then moving up perhaps into network administration, systems administration, security specialist types of roles. And I think with these core certifications in particular, thousands of CompTIA alumni have followed this this pathway of A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus. They've followed that route and found significant success in their IT careers. And fortunately, one of those alumni, I'm never quite sure how to make that singular. One of those alums, has graciously agreed to talk with us about her career journey. So joining us today is Christine Tuttleman. She can talk about, I've so much of what I've mentioned over the last half hour or so is kind of the hows and whys of establishing a career in IT. And I hope all of you on the phone have found some useful tidbits in there. But what I've talked about has been somewhat abstract. It's what it's like at most companies for most people. In contrast, Christine, I think, is going to talk to us a little bit about how it has really played out for her. So first, I would encourage all of you on the phone, if you have a question that you'd like to ask her, please post it in the Q&A window, and we'll try and get those as well. So Christine, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Great. And I should mention, Christine is a real trooper today. She is got one of those awful fall colds. So thank you again for coming to join us, even with the nasty cold. Now. I know Christine because she serves on the CompTIA Subject Matter Expert Technical Advisory Committee, which is quite a mouthful. So internally, we just call this group our Super Sneeze. And we call it that because they're really the best of the best in terms of the depth of their expertise and their willingness and ability to share it with us in shaping our certification exams. And Christine's just a fabulous example of that. She's got numerous certifications from CompTIA and others. She's got our mastery level CASP or CompTIA Advanced Security Practitioner certification, which is the highest level certification that we offer. She also holds the CISSP. So Christine, for those who are madly Googling your LinkedIn profile right now, you identify on LinkedIn as a Business Information Security Officer for DST Systems. Would you mind sharing with us a little bit about what that means and kind of what your day-to-day these days looks like?
Sure. Well, first, my day-to-day is very different. I have a very broad range of responsibilities. One of my core responsibilities is policy writing and review. I also ensure that the annual security training is appropriate, it gets launched on time, it meets the requirements for our company for both regulatory and compliance needs. I coordinate all of our phishing exercises. I serve as a liaison between the security department and the business units. And our business units comprise of everything from the network team, developers, to client relations teams. Okay. And on top of that, I have to take our security initiatives, our projects, our goals, our audit findings, and I also have to be able to translate those into language that our non-security people can understand, and they understand why it's important and why we need to get these things done.
So it sounds like you really crossed those three. I don't know if you can cross three pillars, but you really have responsibility for the people, the processes, and the technologies when you're thinking about it. Your role in security.
That is completely correct. I interact with everyone from people who are on our help desk to our senior directors of networking to our compliance and legal team even.
Okay. So it's an interesting role, and I always, the security roles are fascinating to me. One of the things that we struggle with at CompTIA is people hear so much about security, and they know that these jobs are out there, and they want to get into it right away. And we kind of look at that, our core skills, the A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus, and people oftentimes want to jump right into Security Plus, and we always try and counsel people, well, you want to know what you're securing before you enter into that security role. And how has that really played out over the course of your career? How did you get to this point? Are we kind of off the reservation in suggesting that it's difficult to walk right into a security career?
No, I think that's entirely accurate. I mean, the most effective security people that I know, that I've interacted with, they are all the ones that have the technical background before they go into security. They understand how systems work, how things interoperate, and that really gives them that solid basis that they need to build upon to be able to secure those items.
And what about from your own personal journey? How did you get started in this area, and what kind of pivots within your career did you make, and how did you navigate that? How did you manage to do that?
Well, I got started before you guys had the CompTIA framework. So unknowingly, I actually followed your exact framework that you just laid out. I started with my A+. I started with a help desk job, doing the grunt work down in the trenches, dealing with angry people who, the entire internet's broken. And from there, I went to a network role where I was a network administrator. I did that for several years, and from there, it was kind of a natural transition into security, because a lot of security and network ideals kind of overlap. For security, you're locking things down, you're making sure everything is secured. With networking, you're enabling that, that kind of flow of data back and forth. So knowing how those both interact, that really forms a solid basis.
Great. So you kind of made that, it's you're kind of the textbook example of really understanding what it is that you're securing before moving into that security role, and mastering those skills first, and then moving into it.
Yeah, that's correct. And if you don't understand the basic stuff that you learn with like the A+ and the Net Plus type exam, it becomes really hard to be effective as a security person, because security has to walk that fine line between secure and accessible. And you have great ideas about locking stuff down and making it super secure, but if you stop operations, you're not going anywhere fast. Sure.
Yeah, you don't want to become the Department of No.
Exactly.
So switching gears here a little, over the course of your career, you've earned quite a few certifications. I won't try and peg the number of them, but I know that you've got quite a few of them. Can you talk a little bit about what motivated you? So once you had your A+, why not just stop there? What motivated you to continue to earn some more and continue to pick up additional certifications over the course of your career?
Well, in the IT field, it is very apparent that you have to keep learning, you have to keep developing new skills, you have to keep expanding your knowledge set to be effective and to keep moving forward in your career. And over time, I have found that getting new certifications, that is an excellent way to do that. You get exposed to new subject matter, and then you get that piece of paper that shows, hey, not only do I know this, but I can demonstrate it. And that certification always gives more value to you as a person. I've never had anyone look at my certifications and say, oh, it's always been, oh, wow. It's always been value added.
It seems like one of the things necessary for an IT career really is that love of learning and that interest in that pursuit of new skills. Would you agree?
I think that's completely true. I mean, IT doesn't stand still. You can't just learn one skill and think you're set for the rest of your career. You have to keep learning, things keep changing, and you have to keep up with it.
Is that so? If that's one of the things that you like about IT, what are some other things? I mean, are there that kind of help you get out of bed and out the door, even when you've got a terrible head cold?
Well, personally, I enjoy working with people. In my role, I get to work with an amazing cross-section of people. Like I said, everything from the help desk to our legal team to compliance it's just wonderful being able to meet so many different people and then being able to get them to work together to meet a common goal. Now, because of information security, a lot of times we are restricting access. We are securing things. So sometimes the initiatives aren't exactly met with open arms. Sometimes there's resistance. People aren't too crazy about change. But it's always a great feeling when you're able to work with them. You're able to bring their business levels up. And the person who was highly resistant at first is suddenly one of your greatest champions.
Yeah, that would be very satisfying, I would think.
Yeah, it is.
So final question here before I turn it back over to Camille. Someone starting out in an IT career, what kind of advice would you give them?
I think the best advice you could ever get is never stop learning. Always be looking for something new to learn about. Always be looking for new skills to add. You could find stuff to do online. You could read blogs. You could read even Reddit and learn more about information security, learn more about technology. But then you need to take that knowledge you get and you need to step outside of your comfort zone with it, whether it's getting a new certification that demonstrates you've learned something or even finding a new job. You have to be willing to step outside and go to that next level.
Great. Yeah, just I think that's great advice for all of us, no matter stage of the careers. You've got to be willing to take that first step. That's often the hardest one, to kind of step outside and embrace the change, so to speak.
Right.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Christine. I am going to turn it over to Camille. I think there have been a few questions, and maybe she can help us field some of those if we've got a little bit of time for questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you ladies both so much. I know this was just really helpful for the audience to have someone who really knows a lot about CompTIA's content and their offerings, and then as well as someone who's really utilized it and been involved in their career with it. So just want to thank you both again for helping us out here. We'll get to questions in just a minute. We have some great questions rolling in. My colleague Jeff and I are impressed with some of the cool stuff people are asking. And if we don't get to all of these questions, I know we're going to get a little short on time. We'll have someone follow up with you to make sure that we can help you out today. But if you are thinking about a course, wanted to touch real quick on InfoSec Institute's offering. So we have a couple of different ways you can train. And we offer the certifications discussed today from CompTIA. So we have some really great options. We have industry-leading pass rates and a variety of formats that can fit how you learn best and fit with your schedule and take award-winning training anywhere from kind of your favorite device. So some really great options. Wanted to mention that we are an authorized CompTIA training partner. And learning from us, you'll have instruction from people with at least 10 years of industry experience. And one of the really cool things we offer is the exam pass guarantee. So that means if you don't pass your certification exam on the first try, we will go ahead and pay for that second attempt for you. And then for October, we have a little bit of a cool special going on. So you'll get access to 90-day video replays of your lessons should you choose to train with us. So this is great for kind of reviewing that material. I mean, Christine just said, you know, never stop learning. A great way to review some of that material and practice and go back on certain sections. So a really nice offer. But as I said, let's move on to some questions while we still have our experts here. So some really interesting questions rolling in. I think the one I'd like to start with is thoughts on getting advice on getting experience before you take your certification. So I thought that was kind of an interesting question.
Yeah, that's one. And Christine, please chime in here, having done this, I think. But some of the things that we have seen, volunteer work is one of them. Also, if you are at you know, in a kind of post-secondary situation, schools often run their run a help desk to offer support. Christine, or was someone trying to chime in there? Did you have something you'd like to add on to that?
Well, what I can tell you, what I've seen before is often people take an entry-level job, and while they're doing that entry-level job, they'll start studying for certifications. Like they'll use it to get their foot in the door for like A+ or Network+, and it really helps to have that real-world experience alongside the certification.
Yep. Yeah, even taking on a role that maybe is more customer service focused can also be can be a big differentiator when you are looking for that first technical role. And sometimes there is, that first line might be more of a customer service type role, and that can open up, as Christine suggested, some avenues to moving into a more technical role once you earn the certification.
Sure. Kind of piggybacking off of that, we have some people asking, what is the background or what is the experience that a lot of people have going into some of these certifications? You know, maybe they're looking to make a career change or something on that order. What would you say is kind of a knowledge you need to have to get into some of these certifications and understand them?
Sure, and it differs by certification. When you look at something like an A+, an A+ really validates skills that are equivalent to someone with 9 to 12 months of hands-on experience, and that is our first certification that really is targeting people with not much on the job experience. So some folks do take that within a training or education setting, and the hands-on experience is things maybe they do with a lab set up at home, or the hands-on is part of a lab requirement for a course that they're doing. As we move up or progress through the pathway of certifications, the experience requirements get higher. So something with a Network+, you want to have some kind of on the job experience, even if it's pretty early on, if it is that entry level role, like Christine had mentioned. Once you get into things like cloud and our mid-tier security certifications, you want to be an early career IT pro. You want to have some on-the-job experience to really get, I guess, what you're studying and the skills that you're validating, and to then use those certifications to move into those roles.
Sure, perfect. And I think that kind of helps answer, a few questions we've had of looking at, since there's so many options, kind of looking at, the courses and the certifications, kind of as a pathway, I think helps to kind of build on that knowledge slowly but surely. So I think that kind of answers a few of the questions we have coming in. Maybe, Teresa, you could talk a little bit, and Christine a little bit too, on what does the exam format look like for these? Kind of how does the exams work, and how long are they, that kind of thing, maybe?
So each of the certifications differs in length. I want to say most of them are between 1 and 2.5 hours, but it will differ by certification. CompTIA does have a hybrid approach to examination, meaning we have both closed response and performance-based components. So the performance-based component would be like a simulation that asks you to complete a task. A closed response item would be like a multiple choice, or even some forms of drag and drop. The other thing that I would say about format is when you are looking at our certification objectives, you'll note quite a few objectives start out with the phrase "given a scenario." And what that really means is candidates are expected to be able to apply knowledge and skills within context. So problem solving and the ability to troubleshoot, I think those are skills demanded by employers. And part of the reason for specifying the given a scenario format is a way to make sure that that problem solving and that troubleshooting can be performed within the context of a technical problem. So, I guess to wrap it up, we've got performance-based and closed response, and then across both of those, we have this idea of scenario-based items and really applying your knowledge within the context of technical problems.
Sure. One question we'll wrap up with real quick here. Thanks again for submitting questions, everyone. It really enriches the presentation when we're tailoring it to what our audience is interested in. So wrapping up here, could you maybe give just a few more little examples of some entry-level roles besides maybe the help desk that we kind of touched on earlier? What roles is someone with an A+ or a Network Plus certification, what kind of titles are they thinking about?
I think help desk, as you mentioned, is a big one. Technical support is another job title. Some earlier career, earlier level network administration and system administration type of roles. With those, I think folks have to look at what experience level they're looking for. Because it will vary. Christine, did you want to add anything on there? Those are the big ones that we see within our certifications, are the admin roles, and then IT and network user support.
I will tell you that one of the security people that I have known that I've been most impressed with, he actually started out as a security guard for a department store, and he took that job role and he was able to pivot into an information security career from there, because he got the right mindset down. He had people skills, and he is just one of the most impressive individuals I have known. So
That is
sometimes that
I love
is
that.
from an honest place.
Yeah, that's a great anecdote. Thank you for sharing that. He's got that physical security piece down for sure, right?
Yeah, definitely. And the people skills, that's very important.
Very cool. Well, I wanted to thank you again, Christine and Teresa, for joining us today. Really great session, really informative for everyone. And, I think this just really helps people understand where to go with their careers and kind of how to get there. So we definitely appreciate you joining us today. And thank you everyone for attending the webinar as well. So if you're interested in more information, you can go ahead and check out infosecinstitute.com/CompTIA, kind of look at some options there for certifications and kind of learn more about each individual certification. Or you can go ahead and call the number there and someone will be happy to go through that with you. You can watch for the recording of this session in your email. You'll be receiving that soon here following the session. And if you'd like any more information, like I said, feel free to give us a call or check out our website. And wrapping up, thanks again, everyone, for joining, and have a great rest of your day.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.